Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott MacKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, industrial professionals, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you for your continued support of this particular platform that celebrates you. I'm pointing at you at the camera right now because you're bold, brave, and you dare greatly. You innovate, you collaborate, you solve problems each and every day. You are making the world a better place. That's what you're all about. That's why we celebrate you on this platform. We are also, there's some buzz in the background. I think people are milling about the place, but there's some buzz in the background. We are at Accruent Insights here in San Antonio, Texas. We are broadcasting on site, which is a lot of fun because there's a lot of problem solvers out there, a lot of people that want to collaborate, a lot of people that want to really make the world a better place. It's all here, Accruent Insights. In the hot seat, Noah Reddy. He's been with the company for 5 months. So let's make him feel uncomfortable. No, just kidding. Let's get cracking. So this is your first Insights.
That's correct. First time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great. It's a little bit hot outside, but other than that, it's great. Has nothing to do with
I was
Insights.
walking around with jeans on, and I thought that was a stupid decision on my part. It was hot. And then you run down if you're up in the street level, it's hot, and then you get down, and you can't get away from it. And all I want to do is just whine. Just whine to you and whine to anybody that wants to listen. So
I'll listen anytime.
No, you won't. You don't want to hear about me whining. But anyway, before we get into the conversation, Noah, give us a little background on who you are.
Yeah, sure thing. So as you mentioned, been at Accruent for 5 months now. I'm our general manager for what we call our workplaces business. So a couple products in that with EMS and Famous 360. I have been in kind of the product and general manager space for my career, about 15, 20 years of product level focus, worked for various tech companies, and pretty excited to be at Accruent as I learn, but just really get to dig in with customers that are here.
So what do you think about this event? I mean, what just pops out at this Insight event? I have my thoughts. I'm not going to feed you with my thoughts, but
sure.
Mine are positive, so let's go.
Great. Yeah, I think what pops to me, I think, is the enthusiasm. You know, we've got almost 500 customers here, and they're all excited. I mean, they're like you said, they're problem solvers. They've got their own challenges and things that they're working through, and it's exciting for me to kind of really, we act as partners and, understand their problems, see how we can help. They've got problems, and they're teaching us, and we're learning things, and it's just, like I said, enthusiasm is probably my word that I take away from.
Agree. That's exactly where I was going. I think that being very customer-centric is evident. This collegial environment where everybody wants to collaborate, and it doesn't matter. They want everybody to be successful and solve those pain points. All right, let's get into that chat. I'm interested in hearing about, you talked about EMS and Famous 360?
Famous 360, yeah, it's one of our products.
Tell us about EMS and then Famous 360.
Yeah, sure. So you can kind of view them as two really complementary products, particularly focused on space management, space reservations, and also the maintenance and management of the facility where that space is. So they work very complementary together, and they're meant to kind of streamline those workflows, particularly around if you think about it, you've got a building or an asset within the building. How are you actually utilizing the space? And people are reserving it and actually booking time, but then also how do you maintain it over time and track work orders and everything to make sure that
What does EMS stand for?
I think it originally stands for Event Management System, but we just call it EMS now.
Okay. And then Famous 360, what is that all? I mean,
that's the maintenance side of it. So,
there you go. Okay,
sorry.
Gotcha.
EMS is kind of the space reservation and booking. And
good.
Famous 360 is the maintenance.
There you have it. That's all I wanted to know about. So when we start talking about managing these assets, so the Famous 360, what differentiates that product, that solution, from some asset-centric type of maintenance platform?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of areas. So one would be, Famous 360 kind of approaches the problem through a facility view, actually. So if you think about it as what's the facility have and how do you maintain the health of the facility? And obviously there are assets within the facility, but it kind of comes at it from more of a facility first view as opposed to an asset first view. So if you really think about, if you're owning a facility, that's a pretty big ticket item that you want to make sure is staying healthy. So you kind of think of it through that lens. It's also pretty open and flexible. So, customers want to use it in a lot of different ways, and we want to empower them to be able to maintain and manage that facility itself. And so Famous 360 does that.
And then the EMS, we spoke, that's sort of that management system that is out there. Now, let's talk about smart buildings. Define what a smart building is.
Sure. I think smart buildings can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Right.
But I think at the heart of it, it's really how does the building and the facility itself become more self-aware, more intelligent, and really reduce the burden on facilities teams and maintenance teams. So think about it as if you can enable predictive maintenance, if you can enable, hey, here's the health of my building, my facility, the pieces within that, and it's letting you know, for example, like, hey, here's a regular schedule, like you need to make sure that you're sending out the tech to check these things, or you're using data from space management systems to say, hey, you're overutilizing this one space, you're underutilizing this other space. It's kind of serving up insights to you. That's what we really focus on having software that empowers that building to become smarter and help teams manage it in a more efficient way.
What does that mean? I mean, if I want a smart building, what does it mean to my bottom line?
Sure. I'll give you an example kind of around the sustainability and green energy push. So whether it's a corporate entity, universities or institutions, there's lots of business objectives around. One, it's kind of what's the initiative to be more sustainable, just better for the environment, but also there can be a bottom line impact. So we've got a partner that's here this week where they're talking about how they actually can use space data for where people are and what rooms they're occupying on what their schedule is to optimize how they use their HVAC systems. And so you can turn off an AC system at certain times or turn it up at other times where there's more people around. And they've shown that they can save their customers pretty significant amounts of money.
Yeah, that from a smart perspective, that just makes sense, right? Managing that consumption, that power profile is definitely key. Where do you see it sort of going? You're just scratching the surface to a certain extent. Given COVID, given the challenges, given where people are less, they're not as tied to assets or buildings, and they're just working, mixed use type of thing. So, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I think actually. I describe it as we're kind of in the middle of it right now. I think a lot of companies and universities and institutions are actually trying to figure out what that means. You hear a lot about hybrid work, return to work, and the policies are all over the map right now. So I think right now it's really about how do you make sure that you enable companies and universities to figure it out and allow them to test and say, hey, we're going to implement this policy. Can we make sure that our people know where to go when they need to go, and we've got the space available, but then we're going to test and measure, and we're going to see, are we getting the right utilization? Are we getting the people in? Are we actually more productive and more efficient? So it's going to be an iterative process, I think, and there's no one solution. So that's why it's actually really all about that flexibility right now.
How does Accruent stay current on that? I mean, you've got to be a part of that conversation. If I'm a university and I'm looking at my asset holistically and I'm trying to optimize it, you have to be a part of that conversation because they're using the system. How do you integrate yourself into that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think personally, but as well as I think it's fair to represent Accruent as a whole, is we absolutely want to be talking to our customers and industry leaders as much as we can to get a pulse for that. And so whether it's events like this or it's industry events or staying up to date on market studies and research, I think that's the number one best way. I personally feel like the more customer-centric we can be, the better we're just going to be plugged in and be able to partner with our customers, but have a good pulse on what's coming next.
what is coming next? What do you think is coming next? So put your future hat on.
Sure.
Mr. 5 months.
That's right. Yeah, no pressure. I think we talked about it a little bit. Continue to see pushes around sustainability and green energy. I think that's a big one for sure. I think particularly in my area of the world, what's next is people are really trying to figure out how to optimize their space and how can people are constantly asking, okay, do I have the right amount of space? Do I have too much? Do I have too little? So it's ultimately about getting as much data as you can so that you're doing your real estate portfolio planning for the next few years to understand, okay, I've got to get the right cost structure and I've got confidence in that's the right amount of space. And that's what I think we're going to see for the next several years. A lot of people really trying to optimize that.
How do you put the sensors in these particular facilities, right, to get that data out? How do I know what are the strategies behind that?
Yeah, I think there's a few different ways that we actually see people doing it. One is sensors. You can have sensors inside rooms where you're actually seeing, okay, how many people are in, are they coming in on time? For example, if they book it from 11 to 12, do they show up at 11? Do they show up at 11:30? You can monitor it that way. Another pretty common way is actually people will use Wi-Fi access points. So less about sensors and it's more about you're connecting up. They know which device is whose, or they know how many devices have entered the room. So it's actually, a little bit of a less hardware-focused way. You've already had the Wi-Fi access points set up because everybody needs Wi-Fi, so you can monitor it that way too.
It would seem easier from a Wi-Fi perspective. But you still, do you think that we're still at the beginning of it? I mean, there's a long way to go, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of a continuous, there's no end game.
Yeah.
It's kind of continuous. It evolves, right? I think there's going to be a lot of iterations there. And as I mentioned, right now, people are employing a return to work policy or return to campus policy, but that's going to change. They're going to tweak. They're going to learn. Like as I said, they're going to test and measure. And so they'll change their policies. And then we may need different strategies around, okay, how are you monitoring usage? And our tools like EMS has all of that data for when rooms were booked, how many people are in there, when does it end. You can use that data to have really powerful insights for how you optimize moving forward.
Are you getting any impact from, given what has taken place, now that we have a sort of a blended type of working environment, these vacant assets, is there something that can be done? Can we think through that a little bit differently, or is it just, that's a tough one?
Yeah, no, that's a great question actually, and I think your point is fair, and I would describe it as people are looking to use space in I'd say it in a new way, get a little bit more creative. So, for example, one interesting way to create a revenue stream is you can host, I'd call it like a mini event think of it like a big conference room or something kind of like this.
Yeah.
You can actually use tools to say, you know what, hey, we're going to open this up for people to come in and they pay and they'll have catering and they'll have AV services and we're going to host like a small internal conference for a company. And that becomes actually a pretty significant revenue stream for people. And so now it's not just vacant space, it's actual money-making asset that you can think about.
Yeah, I think we just have to be real creative in the way we look at that. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of assets out there. And I think that I don't know the data, I don't know the statistic, but a large portion of our energy consumption is property, is how you manage it. So you can really, from a sustainability perspective, really make a positive impact.
Agreed.
And it just makes sense. So if somebody says, hey, I want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
LinkedIn, Noah Redding, REDING.
Yeah, see, there it is. You were absolutely wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy peasy. I didn't scare you.
No.
No, I wasn't making you nervous, right?
Not at all. 5 months.
5 months, Mr. 5 months. All right, we're going to have all the contact information for Noah out on Industrial Talk. So reach out to him. He wants to collaborate, as well as many of the people at Accruent. They want to collaborate as well. All right, stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
I'm always fascinated by managing assets, managing buildings specifically, given the fact that we had COVID, given the fact that there's been some really interesting pressures being placed on these physical assets, solutions such as the one described by Noah already. Make it a viable option, saving money, bottom line value. I just think it's really an interesting time, specifically within the building management world. Smart building, you get it. I don't have to continue to hammer on. Reach out to Noah. That was Accruent Insights user community, fantastic event. But you got to look at that from 2025. All right, we're building a community, an ecosystem of industrial professionals. You have a podcast, you have technology, you have a story to tell. You need to reach out to me. Go out to industrialtalk.com. I am there. Talk to me. All right, be bold, be brave. Dare greatly. Hang out with Noah. Change the world. We're going to have another great conversation coming from